friends, I'm Jennifer Scott and welcome back to my channel, J Scott Beauty. Today I thought we would talk about brushes. I know, I have like a bouquet of brushes here. It looks like a shit ton. To some of you, you're like, what? Why are there so many? And the rest of you are like, I could never hold on my brushes, I have too many. Well, yeah, I'm somewhere in between. So let's go through some of my favorite brushes and why I have them. So I'm going to give you some basics about brushes and then I'm going to tell you what you really need to know. So first off, there are two types of brushes, as you might figure. There's synthetic and there's natural hair. Okay, easy enough. So natural hair brushes are usually made from sable, goat, or squirrel. And the point of those brushes is that the hairs are like very, very soft. They're natural hair, so they have cuticles, which allow the bristles, to pick up product. The cuticles hold onto the product, and then when you are blending, it's working with your skin's oils and giving you a perfect blend. Okay, sounds great. They're also supposed to be the softest brushes. And then you have synthetic brushes. They are less porous. They're usually made of nylon or polyester, and they're supposedly good for like liquids, so like foundation, concealer, that sort of thing. That was always kind of the traditional thinking behind the two different types of bristles. Well, I don't find that to be entirely true. So here are just a couple of my natural bristled brushes. These are made from goat. I don't find them to be softer. As a matter of fact, I actually find them to be a little scratchier. And if you think about it, goats aren't the softest of animals. So I don't love goat brushes for everything. There are some things that I do like it for, but not for everything. Now here I have some of my natural hair bristles. I love them. They're great. I have no issues with them. As a matter of fact, this one I have a couple of because I like it so much. So I have both natural and synthetic bristles, as you can see. And this here is one of my favorite brushes of all. This is a Scott Barnes brush. It's the number 62. This is literally the softest brush I have, and it's a synthetic brush. I believe most, if not all of his brushes are synthetic, and they are the softest. All right, so you're probably thinking, girl, I have like 7 brushes. What is with all those damn brushes you have? So let me break it down for you. These here are big, soft, fluffy brushes. These are my powder brushes. Usually in your powder brushes, you're gonna look for something that has medium to pretty dense bristles. So for example, this here is one of my bronzer brushes. As you can see, she's dirty. It's been used a few times this week. But it's a very soft brush. This is a Morphe brush. It's their R2. It's their bronzing brush. It is super soft. It is pretty dense. And I like it because you can see the size of it. So when I pick up powder, it goes right where I want it. I don't have to be, using a smaller brush, something like this, and trying to fill in the area, the enormous area on my face that needs bronzing. A bigger brush can do it in much easier strokes. That way it's going to be less patchy. You're going to have less need to blend. So you definitely want larger brushes for doing larger areas of your face. Then there's your general powders for your face brushes. So if you're doing, your translucent powder, or if you're doing powder, under the eyes, or if you want to, have a bigger brush just to do your blush, something a little denser sometimes. Or if you want a brush that's very all-purpose, which can do a lot of things. Now, one of the reasons why I have so many of these face brushes is because I don't want to have to clean them as often. That's right, I'm kind of lazy. So I have 2 brushes that I pretty much use for bronzer. That's these 2 here. One is natural hair, one is a synthetic hair. I like them both, although I like this one more because it is softer. Then I have this brush from Sephora. I have 2 of them. It's the number 55. It is their powder brush. So it's basically for any sorts of powders you want to use. So you can use it for your cheek color. You could use it for your bronzer. You can use it for your Oliver translucent powder. I use it sometimes for, how I use the Hourglass ambient lighting to kind of go over and meld everything together. I use this for that. Lots and lots of things you can use these general powder brushes for. And then there's brushes that I use for my blush. Now, typically your brush for blush is going to be a domed like shape, and it's very soft because you're going to want to pick up a medium amount of powder. You're not going to want to pick up a ton of powder, and you're going to want it to be very soft so that when you're blending, it moves the cheek powder evenly without leaving any streaks. Now I also have this one here. I use it as a cheek powder blush brush because I like how it's angled. I like sometimes to be able to just go and just get exactly a very detailed small area. Sometimes I want a different effect, so different brushes for different effects. And then I have these medium-sized brushes. So I use them for a range of different things. So this one here and this one here, I like a lot for doing the powder under where my concealer is. I don't like going in with like this big powder brush here. It just takes up too much space. This way, with one of these, I can get it right in the area that I want, and I'm not disturbing anything else. I like the different shapes. This one is definitely more domed. This one here is a tapered brush, but it's not as dense as this one here is, so it's going to pick up less product. So if I want a lighter application, then I'll use this one. This one here is denser, so this is if I want heavier application or if I'm going to like really be detailing. So I'm going around the nose, I'm going in between my eyebrows. But this is kind of an all-purpose brush too. You could use this for blush, although I don't so much anymore since I have those other ones. And then there's this angled brush here, which I will sometimes use for either blending my contour, sometimes just putting my contour on and blending it up. This one has a bunch of different purposes it could be used for. And then there's foundation brushes. So this is where it can get kind of confusing. Different foundations work better with different applicators. Some work better with a beauty blender, some work better with a brush, some work better with different types of brushes. So as you can see here, this is a flat brush. I've had this one for a really long time. This is from Prescriptives. I don't even think that company's in business anymore. And this is for kind of a light application, patting it on and kind of fanning it out. I don't use this for that. I actually use this for putting on face masks. So I get a light, even coating, and I actually use less of the product. So my face masks that I buy like in a jar actually last a lot longer because I'm using less product, because I'm not, just putting my fingers and smushing on my face and having, unevenness of the product. So that's what I use this one for now. And then there's these three. So this is my most recent face brush. I think you've probably seen it if you've watched my other videos. I've been using it to apply some of my foundation because it's supposed to give lighter coverage. So far, I haven't found that to be, completely true. I'm still working with it. I like it. I like how it feels. I like the actual effect that it gives on my skin once, in putting on my foundation. It doesn't leave streaks. So you would think that these hairs might leave streaks. This doesn't at all. I'm really pleased with this brush. This is the number 64 from Sephora. So as far as a foundation brush goes, if you're looking for medium coverage, this might be a really great option for you. And then there's these two brushes. This here is also a foundation brush. It's a little denser. It's kind of rounded at the top. It's very soft. I don't use it because I feel like it's too small for a foundation brush. I don't feel like it takes up enough area. So she kind of sits until sometimes when I feel like I just want to use her for something. Then there's this one here. This is the Morphe M439. It's a very dense, domed foundation brush. What's nice about this is it doesn't soak up a lot of product. You can put the foundation on very quick and easy. I do find it does sometimes leave streaks, so I will go with my beauty blender over top and just kind of even everything out. It works great for some foundations and not great for others. And that's one of the things you have to get used to doing is, sometimes you're like, oh, I bought this foundation, I don't like the way it looks. Change the tool you're using. Sometimes I have to go through 2-3 tools until I find the right one that makes the foundation look great. It seems like a pain in the ass. I know, it is. But listen, I'm willing to do anything for a smooth, beautiful looking foundation. So for me, these are the 3 brushes that I typically use for doing highlighter. It used to be I only had this one. The fan brush was like the traditional brush for doing your highlights, like here, a little bit here. I found that I didn't like the application of this brush after a while, and for me, I think it's because I don't like the actual fibers on this one. I am gonna look for a different fan brush and see if I like that better. But a fan brush is typically for highlighting. This one here kind of doesn't get used too much anymore because I really don't like it. And then I have these two here. So as you can tell, this one is a little more tapered. It's very fluffy. This one here is a little denser and not as, well, it's not really tapered, but it's very, very soft. So depending on the effect that I want, sometimes I want my highlighter to be in a very specific area. I'll use this brush here and I'll blend, blend, blend. If I want my highlighter to be more diffused, I'll use this brush here because it's a better blending brush and it kind of moves the product more, spreads it out over the area. So depending on what sort of look I want with my highlighter for the day, I'll decide between these two brushes. Then there's brushes like these. These are concealer brushes. They're flat, they pick up a decent amount of product, and they allow you to just tap the concealer in exactly where you want it. This one being smaller is good if you have smaller areas you want to get in, or maybe just a little, blotch, redness, whatever you want to cover up. Then you would want a smaller, more detailed one. Now, a lot of my brushes are multi-purpose. I can use them for different things depending on what my mood wants. But these two here are very specific for me. This one here, you can see it's like a pencil brush. It is very dense, it is pointed, it's not fluffy at all. This I use for my inner corner highlight. It picks up the exact amount of product I want and it lets me place the highlight exactly where I want it. So this is what I always use for my inner corner highlight. And then there is this brush here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's flat across the top. I mean, it's a rounded brush, but it is flat across the top. And this is what I use for highlighting down the bridge of my nose. I like that it's flat because it's going to put the product exactly where I want it to be. It's not going to fluff it off into other areas. It's very precise. Then going into eye brushes, these are all the ones that are flat. So they're flat front and back. They are not rounded. So it allows for a few different things. This one here, I like to sometimes do for just the highlight under the brow bone. It's nice and flat, so it lets me put the product exactly where I want it without getting everywhere. These three here I like very much because it allows me to pack on the product. So like today I have on like a glittery, shimmery eyeshadow on my lower lid, and that's what I use this sort of brush for. I just dab it gently into the product and I tap or pat it right onto the lid and it adheres perfectly. You wouldn't want to use a fluffy brush because then you're just going to get product everywhere. It's just going to fluff it everywhere. And then depending on if I'm doing my whole lid or if I'm doing just like the inner corner or if I'm doing just on the outside corner, depending on the areas, depending on the brush size I'm going to use. Here I have the detail brushes that I use for my eye, kind of like the eyeliner area. So my favorite one is this smudger brush right here. I like this because it's very dense, it's rounded, and any powder that I put here I can just smudge out and it smokes it out so I don't have any harsh lines. This is literally one of my favorite brushes. Then there's this one here. This is an angled eyeliner brush. I don't use gel liners or liquid liners anymore, so I really don't have a use for this one. Then there's these two very flat definer brushes. This one here, you've seen me use. I will dab it into usually a dark shadow like black and I will stamp it right into my eyelash. So it'll, darken up my lashes, make them look darker. It's not for smudging, it's literally just for placing the product in there. Now sometimes I will, turn it on an angle and I'll use it on the outer corner to kind of make a small little wing. But this is great for very precise, specific placement of your products. And then this one here is the angled eyeliner brush. Now I used to use this one a lot with like gel pot eyeliners. I don't use those anymore. I do still use them when I'm going to do maybe a more specific winged liner with my black shadows. You can add water to your black, any shadow really, and turn it to a liquid. And sometimes I'll use this, but not that often. And here are some of my actual eye brushes. So they all have a point or a purpose, and I don't want you thinking that you need a specific brush for a specific purpose. What's more important to know is how to use them and how they fit your face, because your face is going to be shaped different than mine and different brushes are going to work better for you than they work for me. A good example of that is this here Charlotte Tilbury brush. I wanted this desperately because I had seen it for a long time. She would use it in her shadows and in her cream shadows, and she would place it all over the lid. And I was like, yes, that's gonna help those perform better. When I got it, it didn't work as well for me. But what it does really work well for me is because it's so dense and kind of stubby, it's great for me doing like placing darker shadows on the outer corner of my eye and giving it a light buff in before I go in with an actual like blending brush like this or like this that will like soften the color. For me, this has been something unexpected. I even use it under my eye if I want like a darker concentration of color. Fluffier brushes will like blow out the color, they'll diffuse it, where your denser brushes will make more of an impact. So you have to get used to what you want the brush for and what the brush is going to do for you. Now when it comes to fluffy blending brushes, I have a bunch. They're different sizes, so they can do different things. This one here, I actually have a couple of because it's great for doing in the crease and blending out the color up higher. It's a blending and shading brush, so these are great to have. And the reason I have more than one is because sometimes I'm using more than one color and I don't want to clean a brush in between. And sometimes I'm just lazy and it'll be a couple weeks before I get my brushes cleaned. So it's easier to just have more brushes to choose from that aren't dirty. Smaller blending brushes like these are going to blend for you, but in like a smaller, more precise area. So this isn't really great for blending out the whole of your upper lid. It's better for under your eye, like specifically just on the outside when you want to keep the color in an area without it diffusing all over your face, but it'll still give you a nice blend. Now I can go on and on about my brushes because I have so many and I can tell you what each one does and how I use it, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is the brushes you have and how you use them. All right, now I know it looks like I have a lot of brushes, and I kind of do and I kind of don't. I don't think I'll ever stop buying brushes because, you know, different brushes perform differently. I like to try out new brushes. I like to have more options. I like to have to clean them less often. However, buying brushes can be a very heavy investment. So I basically only buy brushes on sale. I rarely buy brushes at full price. So either during the Sephora sale, Morphe.com and Sigma.com both carry great brushes, and they're always having sales, or there's on anyone's, you know, YouTube pages, they usually have links, like affiliate links to save whatever, 10, 15, 20% off using a special code at checkout. Always look for codes because there's no reason to pay full price for these brushes. Now, there are so many brushes and many brush companies. Every makeup line has brushes. But if you're just starting out and you want to slowly build, a couple things to remember. Buy the softest brushes you can find. So at like Target and Ulta, you can get brushes like Real Techniques and Eco Tools. This is one of my softest brushes. I love this. It's so freaking soft. That makes a difference when applying your makeup. It's going to apply it better, plus it feels so much nicer on your face. You do not want to be dragging something scratchy across your face. That is not a good experience, and it is actually not going to give you a good application. At Target, for instance, there are lots of brushes to choose from. There's Real Techniques, there's Sonia Kashuk, e.l.f. has a line of brushes. I recommend that you touch the brushes though. You need to touch them to see what they feel like. You also need to know what it is you're looking for. Do you need more eye brushes? Do you need more powder brushes? Are you looking to get a brush for your foundation? And if you are, have you bought a fancy foundation and the company sells a brush that goes with it? Yeah, that happens all the time. I've never bought the brush that goes with the foundation because usually you're spending around $45 for the foundation, and then the brush they're selling you is somewhere between $40 and $60. Are you kidding me? So annoying. Now listen, if you've got the money to spend on it, do it. Get the brush that goes with the foundation because it may perform better than another tool may, but it may not. Very often when you're shopping cosmetic sites, there will be like bundles and deals like, you know, buy this eye color, get this free brush. I have a bunch of brushes like that and I freaking love those brushes. I would have never had those brushes before had I not received that sort of deal. So I have probably, at least 4. Here are 3 of them. I love these brushes and I would have never purchased them on their own, but they came in bundles and they've turned out to be brushes that I can't live without. So sometimes if you're like looking at, oh, I want that cheek color, oh, it's bundled with a brush, do it. Get the bundle. It's gonna be worth it. So I've narrowed it down. These are my can't live without brushes. These are what I must have. Oh, there's one more. This, the eyebrow eyelash brush. I have to have this. Okay, so these are my must-have brushes. I will link them below, but let's go through them real quickly so you know why I love them. This is my bronzer brush. I love it. My best favorite bronzer brush ever. This is my all-over powder brush. Like I said before, you can use it for all sorts of powder applications. Super soft. I love this. Then there's this blush brush I have. I like the dome shape. I like how soft it is. It picks up the right amount of color. Love, love, love. Then there's this brush here that's kind of a little bit flat and tapered. I use this for under my eye, for patting on my powder to seal my concealer. The eyebrow eyelash brush. Then there's these two here that I use for eyeliner. I cannot live without these two. This one here for my inner corner highlight. And this one here for highlighting my nose. And these three for blending. These are my three favorite blending brushes. I love them and I could not do my makeup without them. Of course I could do my makeup without them. I just don't wanna. You wanna know what my least favorite brush is? It's this one here. And you know why? Because it's dual-ended. Now, dual-ended brushes are great because, well, you get two functions out of them. However, they're a pain in the ass for me because I keep all of my brushes in like cups like this. So it's gonna, one end, the bristles are gonna be down and they're gonna get ruined. So I can't do that with double-ended brushes. They just have to lay on my table and not be disturbed. So for me, they're more clutter, but I still use them. Oh, and I forgot to mention the famous Artiste brush. These brushes are used for putting on a lot of product, well, at least the larger ones are, for putting on a lot of product like foundation and smoothing it out. You actually do use less product with this. You get a great finish. It smooths it out beautifully. They're wonderful brushes. However, to clean them is a giant pain in the ass. So I'm not a huge fan of the Artiste brushes just because cleaning, ugh, it's a nightmare. Now, under no circumstances do you need this many brushes. Do you need like all this that I have? It's not necessary whatsoever. But you do need a decent number of brushes so that you can get the overall effect you're looking for without having to keep cleaning the brushes when you go to different colors or trying to use a brush on your eye for some space that it doesn't really fit. You need brushes that work for your face. So for me, this works great for doing like the blending in the crease, but maybe for you it wouldn't. It might not be the right shape, it might not be the right density, it might be too thick, it might not be thick enough. You have to get to know your face and what your face likes. Are you gonna buy some brushes that are duds? Yeah, we all do. And they lay around until one day, oh, wait, I can use this for this. Sometimes you just have to wait until you find a reason to use a brush. Now there are high-end brushes from companies like Tom Ford, Artiste, and Hakuhodo. Hakuhodo is probably your highest-end brush maker you're gonna come across. Those are handmade Japanese brushes. They're exquisite and they're ridiculously expensive, but they will last you until the day you die. Those brushes are perfection, but those are craftsman brushes. So as like a regular girl like me, do I need that sort of brush? No, I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not, doing editorial looks for anything. I'm just, trying to keep it together to go out into the world. But if you're a collector, then you're gonna want yourself some Hakuhodo. And of course I want some Hakuhodo. I don't have them right now. I don't know when I'll get them, but someday I will have one. Now my two favorite brands to get brushes from are Scott Barnes and Wayne Goss. They make beautiful brushes. They're pricey. They're gonna last you forever. Like I said, they're beautiful. But you don't need to have Scott Barnes or Wayne Goss brushes. But if they're on sale, maybe scoop up one or two. There's absolutely nothing wrong with building a collection with drugstore brushes. Elf has great brushes. Zoeva has great brushes. Real Techniques, which isn't drugstore, but you can get it at Ulta. They have fantastic, super soft, wonderful brushes. I'm a big fan of both the MAC and Sephora brushes, One of the reasons being is they're easily accessible for me, so I can go to the store, I can see them, I can touch them. They have lots and lots and lots to choose from, which is a big deal for me. I like to be able to see and touch and kind of decide, where would I use this on my face? Is this going to benefit something? Is this going to make something better? And having those huge assortments that are just out there for you to touch, oh, it's so important for me. And one of the best parts of the Sephora brushes is when you can get the bundled sets, because there you save a ton of money. I had posted a bundle set in my Sephora suggestions video for the holiday sales event. I think that is literally the best deal you can get on brushes probably anytime this year. It is a fantastic deal. I think it's like $72 for 10 brushes. It's amazing. I know, it sounds like I work for Sephora sometimes. I've never worked there. I actually don't even want to work there. I just love going there. I love what they have to offer, so that's why I do recommend it a lot. All right, so let's see if I can recap this for you. Synthetic versus natural, it doesn't really matter as long as you get the softest brush you can find. Drugstore versus Sephora, MAC versus online, it doesn't really matter as long as you can get the softest brush you can find at a great price, hopefully with a discount code. Lots of eye brushes for different looks, yeah, that kind of matters. You're going to want blending brushes, you're going to want crease brushes, you're going to want packing brushes, you're going to want detail brushes. Yeah, you're going to need a lot of eye brushes. Foundation brushes, trial and error. It's good to have a couple so you can really find what's going to make your foundation look its best. I know there's a lot to choose from. It's okay. Buy one brush at a time, figure out what you'll like it to be used for, and then buy another brush. We're not in a race. You're not going to win because you have the most brushes. You're going to win because you have the softest, best brushes that work best for your face. Well, I'm sure I've missed something that we could have talked about in brushes, so if you have any questions, leave it in the comments section below. I'll definitely respond. And if you want an in-depth tutorial on how I use different brushes, let me know. I can always do that. Well, I hope I was able to help out with the medium amount of brush knowledge that I have. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell for notifications. I upload 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 12:15. Thank you so much for being with me.